Hey guys, this is Naveen here. Welcome back to Naveen Automation Labs and back to our Playwright API series. So far, what we have seen in the Playwright API automation, last time we were talking about post call with the Lombok with the help of POJO classes. We were sending the request and getting the response with the normal POJO class also with getters, header, constructors, and everything. And this is with the builder pattern also. We have used that. And then we have seen the get call and everything. But now it's time to look into the put call also, that how will you update a specific user, for example, update user. So with gores.co.in, this API is available. Here, this API says that you can do update the user with the help of put and patch call. Patch we will see later, but the put is idempotent in nature. What do you mean by idempotent? And post is not idempotent in nature, because whenever you are hitting with the post call, right, any user, for every single request that you are sending or calling the API, it will create a new entry in the database, right? It will create a new user in the database. But with the put call, whenever you are going to update, it's going to update the existing user. It will not create a new entry, right? If the entry is not available, if the specific user is not available, then only the new user will be created, and it depends on the implementation done by the developer. So that's what, if you hit this particular API to update a specific user 10 times, it is not going to create 10 users inside the database. It will just create only once. That's why this is called idempotent in nature. But post call is not idempotent. So this is a put call. It's saying that, okay, let's try that. So first we will see in the postman. So this is my postman. And then first I'll create a fresh user. For example, let's say I'm going to create a user. My email ID is naveen123gmail.com. This is the name that I'm passing, and then I'm sending the request. And here you can see that a fresh user got created with this ID. Now put call says that we use this particular URL / user ID. Okay, so let's do that. So I'll just copy this URL, create a new request here, select the put call from here, put method here, and / whatever the user ID that you captured here, this user ID from the last post call, the fresh user that I really want to update. And then in the body that you have to supply the JSON body. So select raw and then go to JSON, and then you have to supply the body here. So for example, let's say I'm going to use the same body here. Okay. So in the put call, what happens? The entire user object that we have to supply, and then all these values will be updated. But let's see which value that you really want to update. I'll say, okay, I just want to update only status from active to inactive. So I'll make it inactive here. Then what about these three guys? Yes. So these three values also will be updated, although there is no change in the name, email, and the gender, but still it will update with these values. So whatever the data is there in the database, it will be updated with the latest value. So we are passing four values here, four attributes here. All these four attributes will be updated for the specific user, right? And then in the header, make sure that you are passing the authentication token also. So I'll copy my authentication token from here. So I'll go to the header section, the same authorization bearer token that we have to use. Click on bulk edit, copy this token, come back here, and again click on bulk edit, paste your token here, and again key value to add it. So you can see that bearer token is added, and this is the body that we are supplying, right? So let's see. I'm sending the request. Now you can see the status is now inactive for the same user ID 1364886. And I'll do one thing, the same ID that I'm going to use with the get call now, just to cross check that the user is really updated or not. So yeah, in the response, we can see the user is inactive. Now, once again, let's say I really want to update my email ID also. So what will you do in that case? Again, I'll go to the put call. Now my new email ID, let's see, Naveen automation@gmail.com, and I can sending the request once again. So the email ID is saying already taken. So let's take something else. Let's see 123gmail.com. Now it's saying, yeah, the email ID is updated. You can see 123gmail.com. Just to cross check again, go to the get call and send the request. You can see my latest email ID is naveenautomation123gmail.com. Perfect. So this is a put call. In the put call, we have to supply the entire required JSON object, not the specific information. Let's say I really want to update only status is equal to active once again. Then that I'll do in the patch call. Patch means the only partial part I really want to update. Put means the entire object I want to update. But remember one thing, with the put call, it will never create a new entry. If the user ID, this user ID is already there, so it will just update the information about that particular user. So if you hit this particular APIC 10 times also, it is not going to create, see I'm hitting it, it is not going to create any new entry. The same ID is generated here, right? So how will you do the same thing in the automation with the Playwright? So what we will do, this is a get call methods. These are the post call methods. And I'll do one thing. I'm going to create one more folder here. So let's create one more, or I can create a package or whatever the folder name that you want to create. We can create that. So I'll do one thing. Let's create a package. And the package name that I'm going to write, let's see, this is a put call. And under this put package, I'm going to create a Java class here. So let's see, this is what I'm writing, update user put call, or let's see, yeah, put call with what? With POJO. And we are always going to use Lombok now. So for our reference, I'm writing Lombok test here. Okay. So this is the test class got created here. And what we have to do here, the same users object that we can use it, user user POJO class is already available. And now see this carefully. We were using this create a user with the POJO. So let me do one thing. The flow of the test will be like this. Okay. So I'll write the flow. The first, what we have to do, we have to create a post call. Second thing, we have to do what? Whatever the user ID, we will fetch the user ID from here. Let's say user ID is equal to 123. And in the put call, the same user ID 123, we are going to use it here with the 1/. And then in the third one, we will hit the get call. And then we will same user ID that /123. If you are getting the same user ID with the same information, it means my test is passed. So this is a sequence that we have to follow. First, create a fresh user, update the user, and get the same user just to check, are you getting the right information or not, or updated information or not. So let's do that. So this is my post call that we have already written. Most of the things will remain same. So I'll do one thing. I'll just copy from here to here, and then we will start updating the code. So I'll just paste it here. Okay. Now, as we have seen already that first we have to do a post call. So let's create a user using the builder pattern. So this is my post call. So here I'm writing for a reference that post call here. And then this is a fresh user I'm creating. My username is Naveen. Let's see, I'm writing Naveen AutomationLabs. Get the random email ID from this particular function that we have already seen. Mail status is active. A fresh user will be created over here. So I'll do one thing. This is the first sequence. I'll write it here. Post call, create a user. So user will be created. And then we are fetching the information that we should get 201, a status code, okay, user is created. And the response also we are getting it. And from the response, what will I do? Whatever the JSON that we have captured here, or let's see the text, response text that we have captured, we are converting the text to POJO. It means we are doing a deserialization here. And then whatever we are doing, we are writing some assertion that user got created successfully or not. And see this from the actual and from this particular actual user that we have captured. This is my response object. And I'll do one thing from this. I'm just going to fetch the user ID and then store it here. Dot get ID here. So we will fetch the user ID. You can fetch the user ID from the JSON response also. That also we can do. But let's say I'm doing it like this. I'm fetching the user ID. Now the same user ID, I'm just going to print it on the console. Let's write as out. And then the new user ID is whatever the user ID, we can just print it here. Perfect. So second user ID, the user ID is fetched. Now what is the second sequence? The second sequence is that start using in your put call, right? So now the second will be the put call. We have to update the user. So I'll write put call. It means update the user. How to do this? Now this time we have to use a put call with the request context. So I'll do one thing. I'll just copy this thing and we will change it a little bit here. That instead of post, I'm going to write a put and / users. And then what we have to append plus whatever the user ID. Exactly same thing we did in the post while also, right? user ID. And I'm saying API post response. I'll say this is your API put response. So API put response, we fetch application JSON that we have to pass, and this is the token. But you have to update something right before doing the put call. So now I'll write extra comment here that update what? Update. Let's see. Earlier I was using mine. The status is active. So now I'm going to write that update active to inactive. It means update status active to inactive. So how will you do this? So I'm going to use this particular users object that we used here, this users object here, right? And okay, here dot, which method we have to use? Now we can use a setter here to update the value. And then I'm saying the status will be inactive now. Okay, these are the two things. And let's say I really want to change my name also. So now you can update the name also with the help of setter, users dot set name. And users is what? Users is the, we're using the builder pattern. We have already got this particular user, and see this. This is a user class. All the constructor, getter, setter already maintained with the help of Lombok. If you miss what is Lombok, please watch the last video. You will understand better. And then after that, again, come back here, and then I have to update my name also. So earlier the name I was using Naveen Automation Labs. So now I'll change the name to something else. So let's see, I'm writing instead of Naveen Automation Labs, I'll say Naveen Automation Playwright, something like this. So in the same users that I'm going to supply it here. Perfect. So rest of the things will remain same. In this particular user, we are just updating only two values, that status and the name. We don't need to write like set name or sorry, set email or the set ID and okay, all those things. ID that we have already appended here. Whatever the value that you want to update, you just update here. And then the entire user object that we are passing here. So Playwright, what exactly will do? Playwright will read this users as a whole object where we have status, name, ID, gender, email ID, everything is available. So we are passing the entire JSON object just like we passed in the postman here. Now we will hit this and we are getting the response here. Right now, what will I do? I just want to cross verify the response here. First of all, that I quickly write that s out dot what? So whatever the status, see with the put call, we are getting 200 status code. So I'll say that, okay, dot status plus with some space, colon plus a response dot, you can capture the status text also. So 200, okay, we will be getting it here. This is text and this is the response code. And if you really want to validate that also, you can validate that. So I'll do one thing. I just, for the validation, I can just quickly pick this guy. Okay, it's good practice that you are validating with the 200 status code, 200 here. And this is your API put response dot status, verifying with the 200. And then what else you want to verify with the put call? Because in the put call, I just want to verify that the value that we have changed, name and the status, are exactly same or not. Right. So for that, again, I'll do one thing. I'll just do the conversion with the help of this particular object mapper. So I'll just copy this line once again and then come back here, paste it here. This is what? This is the response text that we have to hold it first. So this is the, I'll do one thing, that I'll say this is my API, sorry, this is my put response text, which is equal to what? API response dot text method that we have to use. And the same put response text that I'm going to supply here. And what is your users class that we have to use it here, right? Users dot class here. And this is what we are getting. This is another new user object we are getting. So here I'm writing, let's see, this is my actual put user. So actual put user that you have captured and storing with the users here. Perfect. So in this particular response that is actually coming after hitting this API, in this response, we have updated status and the name. And then I'll do one thing. I can quickly write an assertion here that assert dot assert equals, right? It's saying you have to give me what your, see this assert dot assert equals method says you give me the actual value first. So I'm saying that this is my actual put user dot, first of all, that you fetch the ID. Okay, the ID should be same. It should be equal to the same user ID that is available here. That is the first assertion. Same thing, I'm writing that assert dot assert equals from the actual user. Okay, actual put user actually. And then dot what? You just capture the status also. And the status that we have already written, that user dot set status inactive. Okay, so we are capturing actual user dot get status and comparing with what? Comparing with this particular users dot get status. So this also inactive already that we have declared, and in the response also we are capturing inactive. So both should be inactive and inactive, and we have set the name also. So let's do one thing, that get name as well, and then here also users dot get name. Okay, the latest updated name, that is Naveen Automation Playwright. Perfect. Okay, so this is also done. But let's see till here it's working or not. Like the user is getting updated and then all the assertions are working fine or not. And meanwhile, I'll do one thing. I'll just print this particular here as out. And then here I'm writing that updated user. And then this is response text and then printing it, right? And between these two guys, I'll do one thing. I'll create a separator here, that as out. And so that after this line, we will see the put call information. Perfect. So let's run it. Okay, so yeah, it got started. Setup is running. Okay, we will change the method name. We should write update user test, but that's okay. But it's getting passed here, right? So here you can see that the first user that we created 201, initially it was this user ID. Naveen Automation Labs is the name. Email ID is this. And see the gender, male, status is active. And then user ID that we are capturing it here. And then we are updating the user once again with the same user ID. Now you can see the updated user is Naveen Automation Playwright is appended, and the status is inactive, and the same ID is available here. If you really want to cross check with the get call in the Postman, you can cross check. Just use this ID, go back to Postman, and in the get call, let's see, we should get the updated information about this user. So here you can see that, yeah, Naveen Automation Playwright and the status is inactive. But first time when we created the fresh user, the status was, see this, status was active, and the name also Naveen Automation Labs without Playwright. Perfect. So yeah, this is also done. So I'll do one thing after the put call that we are printing it here. Then what is the third thing we have to write? If you really want to write the third sequence also, that get the user ID and check the information, are you getting the same user or not? It means just to confirm that, just like we confirmed in the Postman with the get call, same thing we have to do in the Playwright also. I'll hit the get call and check that, are we getting the same user or not, right? So how will we do this? So now the third section that we have to write here, that is get the updated user with get call. Okay, this is what we have to do. So in that case, again, I'm going to write this particular code here. And what we will do, that we can just take this particular get API call and see this is a get call. And we are, if you really want to pass a query parameter, that also we can pass it. But let's see. So I'm just taking up to the status code 100 and all those things, and then a status text also that we are using it from here to here. So copy this and come back here. Okay, we are not writing any generic code. We can obviously write the generic utilities and common methods, but right now we really want to understand the sequence. So now I'm saying this is my API get response, and query parameter that I don't want to pass. So simple remove this. Okay, there are no request options, a simple plain user. And but with the plain user, I'm saying that plus what? The user ID. The same user ID that we have actually fetched here. So I'm using the same user ID here. And this is the API get response, capture the status and print it on the console. Again, check the status code or status message is okay, assert it, and the status text, we are capturing it and then printing it on the console. So I'll say that status a get response text. I'll just give a nice name here like this. Okay. Now I quickly want to check that are we getting the right information here or not, right? So I can do one thing. I'll just copy these 3-4 lines once again here because similar kind of assertion we have to use it. And whatever the status, a text or we can do one thing that we can just fetch the text also from the response here. From this particular response, we have not captured the text. Okay, response text. So I'll say this is my get. This is just a status text. So we are just copy and then paste here. And from the API get response, first I'll do one thing. String, let's see, get a response text, which is equal to dot text method that I'm going to use. And the same get response text, I'm going to use it over here in my object mapper. With the users class, I'm going to map it. And now this is your actual get user. And once you get your actual get user, right? And here, this is your actual get user.id. It should be equal to user ID. And same thing, the status should be equal to users.get status. And same thing that get user get name should be equal to users.get name here. Okay, so let's see, is it really working or not? Because users is what? The user is the updated users object here that we have already captured, okay, with the help of object mapper. So I'm running now the entire test and let's see what happens. Quite lengthy, but when we design the framework, we will try to minimize the code. Don't worry about that. Okay, so this is a put call and we are getting some exception, but let's see. Here it's doing something 200, but 404 not found we are getting here. And let's see the difference, 200 and then 404. Oh, okay. I'll just do one thing. Whatever the user ID API get response that we are capturing right here, I'll do one thing. I'm just going to see logging is not that great in just like in RestAssured in Playwright, because in RestAssured we have .log method, but here we have to write one thing that is URL that we have to print also. Let's see what kind of URL is actually with the get call it's printing, so that we will hit the same URL in the postman just to validate that. That's okay. Good that we are getting some error. We will fix it. So update user test with the put call, it's fine. And see, this is not getting appended here. No, it's getting appended here. And I'll do one thing. I'll just use the same, copy this URL and go back to your postman. And this is a get call. And let's see here. See, here we are getting the information that is 200, but here we are not getting. It means we are doing some mistake here. So the mistake is that with the get call also, we have to supply the authentication token that is missing. So I have added the authentication token now, and rest of things will remain same, right? So let's run it again, and this time it should work fine. So update user test and get call is done. Now it's absolutely good. So here you can see that, first of all, that with the post call, we are getting a new user. With the put call, we have updated the user. And with the get call, when we append with the user ID, we are getting a 200 response code. And all the assertions are getting passed here. Perfect. So this is absolutely working fine. So along with the get call also, make sure that, okay, you are passing the authentication token. In the postman, it's not required, but when you write with the code, that time it's not taking. So we have to supply the token, authentication token here. Perfect. So this is absolutely working fine. And the same thing now you can cross check the same user ID in the post call, in the postman also, that here just paste it here. And now we are getting the updated user here. Perfect. So that's all for this video. I hope you like it. I'll do one thing. I'll just check in this code to my Git repository. You can just take it from there, and then you can practice with the put call. But remember one thing, this is always good practice that you are hitting the sequence like this: post, put, and get. Because if you're directly using with the put call and using the existing ID, but what if tomorrow the ID is deleted, or your database is deleted, or user got deleted, and the user ID, that user is not available in that specific environment, or you are running, let's say tomorrow on the stage environment, and this user ID, hard-coded user ID is not available. So it's always a good practice. You make sure your test cases are always independent. Create a new user, update the same user, and then get the same user. Same thing we will do in the delete call also. You create a fresh user, get the ID, let's see 123, and hit the delete call with the 123, and then again hit the get call with the same user ID 123. Make sure that okay, the user is deleted or not. So this is the way we always write the test here. I hope it's clear. So that's all for this video. Please let me know in case of any issues in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and God bless you always.